process monitoring. The guideline also emphasizes several things, and one of the things is air visualization studies, where the laminarity is demonstrated. Also, when the return air goes, it should your HEPA filter or air velocity should be such that it gives a laminar airflow, as well as it is sweeping the air and the air changes are getting maintained. In my experience, I have seen that most of the companies which are doing air visualization studies, and for that they are taking the help of outside people, and they don't look into whether this is done in a right manner or not. Similarly, there is a system called MediaFill, which is a sterility assurance. In the today's guideline, we have 5 clauses, whereas this has been expanded to 19 clauses. So lot of requirement has been emphasized. Also, in the draft guideline, the utilities has been given lot of emphasis, like water system and steam. In the case of water system, there are numerous references has been given how to mitigate the biofilm formation, because when the water is flowing, there is a chance of biofilm formation, and the water should always be maintained at a turbulent flow and at high temperature. Similarly, the new thing which has come is the water for injection you can produce by non-distillation method. That is why RO is also acceptable. Earlier it was not there, and there are other. Due to time constraint, I cannot take everything. So in the end, as a summary and conclusion, I can very well say that Annexure 1 draft 2020 is a rewrite and not a simple revision. The 2008 contains about 127 clauses, whereas the new draft has a 300 clauses. So it is more than double, which is a very high level of detail is provided. And in many sections, you can find a roadmap of how you can implement, how you can make a robust SOPs. So it is very clear that the Annexure 1 draft that regulators are expecting when they are on the manufacturer's side, that to really understand their process in entirety, and they can then demonstrate that they have adequate contamination control in place, and they have risk mitigation plan, and they have a effective documentation, whether you have a electronic documentation or a paper, you can demonstrate that everything is under control. This consultation process is still going on, and a final document is not yet published. So this can be taken as a reference document to improve your systems, and this cannot be taken as a hard rule. If any company has any alternate approach, they can do so. So I have made my presentation based on a few of these reading materials, and I want to acknowledge those. So if any of you want to get in touch with me, now I am a freelance consulting company, so I have provided my email address and my website is there. So you can approach me if you have any questions in this regard. So thank you very much for the patient listening, and now I will stop my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra. Now the session is open for any questions. They can ask the question.
Dr. Mishra, thank you very much for a nice presentation. But I have 2 questions. I'll ask one by one. First question is, there are significant differences as we can see from the FDA perspective as well as European perspective now. So how the companies or industry, Indian industry should adapt to it?
European perspective and what you asked?
FDA.
US FDA.
Yeah.
No. This is my view, Mr. Jadhav. Earlier, when I started my career 20 years back and 30 years back, there were perspective difference between US FDA and European approach. But slowly, now there is no difference, and hardly there is any. If you can give me any example, then I can comment on, because I have worked for 30 years in injectable plants also. In injectable APIs also, non-sterile API, oral dosage form and everything. So I can share my experiences. But what is happening now, if you look at even the 2008 EU Annex 1 and the European, the US FDA injectable guideline of, I think, 2004, both of them are same. Earlier there were some difference of, you say like in Europe, they call it in the pound, and somewhere we did a kg. So earlier the environmental monitoring, it was shown as a square feet and a square meter, something like that. And the air you are sucking, square meter, square feet. Those kind of differences were there. Our class 100, and in ISO system it is class A, B, C, D, something like that. So nowadays, most of these guidelines are harmonized, and this EU GMP and European, I don't think there is any perspective difference existing as of now. If you give some very specific example, I can dwell upon, but as on date in 2020, just don't have any. And one more thing, I want to just add here, if I am not elaborating my time, the guidelines are minimum requirement. Everything you cannot, even if this is a 52-page guideline, you cannot write everything. So what the industry is expecting from what you call inspectors are expecting from the industry is, you should also go beyond what is the industry practices, what is the technology advancement taking place, what is written in other guidance document like WHO, ISO, like in air quality and other thing, ISO 14644, 1, 2, 3, 4, these all are, and these differences are there. Then also this PDA, ISPE. Actually, when these guidelines are coming, these people are comprising the consultating committee, and at different levels they give their inputs, and also the advancement of science and technology is playing a greater role in revising these documents. So to conclude, there is no difference between US and Europe perspective, very minor, maybe about 1% or so, and it is actually the inspector's perspective, because you have 100 inspectors, so each inspector's background is playing an important role, so how he is interpreting, but more or less it is now harmonized.
Yeah. Now, with respect to detailing also, like number of clauses have increased almost.
Yes. Yes.
That's what. But then will not Indian generic industry be hard pressed, because already it is struggling with respect to US FDA guidelines and other guidelines? We will have infrastructure wise and the compliance wise, you can say.
See, there are many technical things I can talk, then there are many non-technical or other issues which I cannot talk here. As you are aware, like you can say, we were in India, Mr. Gaikwad, I have 5 minutes more, or I have to conclude?
Yes, sir, we'll take this question and then.
Yeah. So, like in India, you see, we were the world champion of hockey. What happened to that world championship consistency? Because the rule has changed. From the grass, it is turf. So what happens, India is a great threat. It is not a threat, but it is a great challenge to the global world of producing low cost quality products. So what happens when you enter in their domain, they will come out with a very high level of compliance involving sophisticated technology. And that's where India will struggle. I will just give you one example, like a tableting machine, or even you take an example of a lyophilizer. The world leader lyophilizer will come about 27 crore automatic unloading and loading. Whereas in India, you can get a lyophilizer in 5 to 6 crore. So you see the difference. Certainly the 27 crore lyophilizer will give you much more comfort, much more precise everything, which is very compared, Mercedes and Honda. So those things are there, but India is overcoming, and technology and the software system will certainly do that. So thank you very much, and we can discuss separately on this topic, and time is not allowing. So I'm also sorry and apologize for extending my time for about 5 minutes. I could have finished about 5 minutes earlier.
No problem.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mishra, for your wonderful talk on the highlighting the role of GMP and sharing your views on the European guidelines, which is the draft guideline on 2020. Thank you very much.